it's essentially a shared engineering resource, and so a lot of the same actual bits show up in both products.
Yep.
Yeah. No, that's exciting. And so obviously, this is the Skype for Business thing. So we're going to be talking about kind of how Skype for Business operates with Office 365 and how to make sure we get great quality. One of the things that is a little bit different about this broadcast is that it is literally just Hal and I today. Normally we've got Paul or Sean or in the back, or I'm in the back while they're talking, doing a Bing Pulse or doing Q&A. We don't have that today. Sean's off today. Paul's at another meeting, and a few of the other folks on the team also got busy. It's a busy time of year for us here at Microsoft, and so it's literally just Hal and I. But we're gonna take our time. We're gonna go through this great topic because there's a really cool deliverable that Hal put together that we get a chance to talk through.
Yeah.
So this is the paper, right?
Yep.
Excellent. Media quality and network connectivity performance, Skype for Business Online. We're publishing this afternoon.
This
right?
afternoon.
Okay,
yes.
great.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So,
not yet this afternoon.
Not yet. Yeah, that's right. Still have a couple edits to go in through, and with the document. You'll be able to go out and get it at aka.ms/SfB network. I think it's kind of an easy thing to remember, SfB network. And so I thought what we would do is just kind of talk through this paper and what some of the guidance is for our customers.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so the first place that we start in this is around connectivity.
Yeah.
And so we kind of start talking about what are some of the factors that can impact quality from a connectivity perspective.
Yeah. So when we talk about connectivity and we step back a little bit, when we talk about real-time media, there are a few factors that actually have a big impact on how good the experience that our users can have, right? Like, for example, devices, good devices and bad devices make a night and day differences in the sort of the audio signals that you're getting and hearing from the speaker. Our quality is only as good as what our devices give us, right? The bad devices, especially those ones with bad drivers, don't do very well with echo, don't do very well with noise. And worst case scenario, this is true, we just recently find, worst case scenario actually is that the driver is so bad that they stop working in the middle of a call. That means you drop the call.
Driver actually, so this is the software that's connecting between the operating system and the physical device. That it just crashes. Like what?
Yeah, it's just a bad driver.
Right.
Yeah, and we find that if you upgrade or sometimes downgrade to a particular version of the driver for that bad device, suddenly things start working. So this is how important the device would contribute to the media quality. And
isn't this also one of the kind of cool things about the media team looking across both Skype for Business and Skype is that you guys get telemetry about devices
right.
from everybody, not just from the Skype for Business
right.
Community, but you get it from all the Skype users as well.
That's actually one of the good things that we enjoy this work, because we have a large network of Skype users, right, from all over the world. There's so many different kinds of devices they use, and we get the opportunity to just observe from our telemetry and sort of think about what is good, what is bad. For the bad ones, how do we deal with them? So we have a lot of learnings from those, and those learnings actually. Well, we do exactly the same thing for the Skype for Business as well, just to be clear.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
but the thing is that we use those learnings and put it back in Skype for Business, and just this learning is very good.
And this is something that I've been working with media teams since 2007, 2008, and this is something that we've had way back then as well, of knowing that. There's no way that even if our media stack was perfect, like if it's kind of a garbage in, garbage out thing, right? If the device is taking in garbage, then there's nothing that the media stack is going to be able to do to have optimal audio quality on the other end. And so we really want to think about what's the capture on the microphone and all those pieces, right?
Hey, there's one interesting thing that it's worth sharing, actually. This is one, let's call it a preliminary finding. We did a study about the media quality in terms of what are the factors impacting media quality. We compared, those calls with the, a good headset, and those calls people just use the regular laptop speaker and things like that, built-in speakers, which generally is not good quality. We find just with that difference, the audio quality, or rather the perception of the audio quality from our users, is about 50% difference.
What?
Yeah, this is this is how important having a good device, and for SfB, having a good Microsoft certified device would help with the quality.
I have a feeling that I'm going to be bombarded with emails now from all of our device manufacturers, from Sennheiser, Plantronics, Jabra. They're all going to be Poly. They're all going to be emailing me like, "Can we please get that study that Hao talked about?"
Oh no, this is early study where we're still validating the data. But I thought that's even this early preliminary. It's data might not be entirely accurate, but I think this is the finding is interesting.
Yeah, no, that's very, very great guidance, and it's good to have that math there to be able to show customers and say, no, you can't use your Xbox headset. You really do need to use something that is designed for great quality and it has enterprise class reliability.
Right.
And then obviously from there, we're capturing the audio and we're putting it onto the network. And so there's a few different elements of the network that we need to think about, right?
Correct.
And so what are some of those characteristics?
Right. So when we talk about media, we're really talking about real-time media.
Exactly.
So the kind of things that will give you a delay, that will make your audio sounds robotic, will greatly impact the user experience. So when we look at the network layer, we're really looking at three different things. One is the latency introduced by the underlying network.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is loss, basically packet loss.
Right.
The audio packets we sent just disappeared when on the other side. The third one is jitter. That basically is the average delay for the received packets.
Got it.
And it's uneven. Those kind of jitter would make your audio sound like a jumpery. Just doesn't sound good.
Because essentially, is it out of order packets that you have to deal with jitter, or is it that there's a buffer there that then runs out?
Right. So it can be just delay. It can be really out of order. So Skype for Business, in our media stack, we have ability to deal with all those things that I just talked about.
Sure.
But one caveat is that we can deal with it, but usually this is something that we commonly do in the industry. We basically have a buffer so that we can get a chance to get the packets to be even again. But the downside of that is the bigger the buffer size, the longer the delay that we will introduce.
Oh, right. Okay, that makes
sense. So that impacts the other thing.
Yeah.
So
you're caching up all these. Yeah, okay, makes sense.
We can deal with it, but still, if the network is good, that does introduce us a little jittery. That's still very good.
I mean, I know this is all kind of secondhand stuff for network professionals, but understand that if you are a network professional, not everybody that's listening to this right now is a network professional, and so there's so we're covering some foundational stuff here, but this is I think significantly different than I think the media experience that most folks may be used to over the internet, which isn't necessarily real-time media. That's two-way, where latency is super critical, and having jitter have reduced super critical. It's more the Netflix and and watching watching media where they can have a big cache, right? So when you click start on watching a movie, it sits there and spins for a while, and that's just filling up a big buffer.
Right.
So that way, if there is any congestion or issues that happen to the network, then they can start playing against that buffer, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Got it. So one of the things that ends up happening then is as we think about these network effects, these network effects of delay and loss and jitter, they actually can happen not just kind of on your workstation, but anywhere in the signal path.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so actually we've got a couple cool diagrams that Hal put together here, and I'm going to just take a moment and switch over to those, and we can kind of talk through what those look like. So here's one where we're looking at the media flow for Skype for Business online meetings. And so the use case here is that I've set up a meeting in Office 365, and I've got a few people from around the world who are connecting into that meeting, and there's a few different places kind of end to end where we can see these network effects occur, right?
Correct. Yeah. So if you look at this picture, this is basically from in a conference, how audio flows from one user that's on the left-hand side to the other user on the right-hand side, and it goes through before the network. Actually, it has to go through the devices and the software. Those add delays. Every time you have some processing along the way, those add at least latency.
So the USB driver adds a little bit of latency, and
right.
Okay, got it.
Right. So then the audio comes out of the user's machine or devices, and then they need to get to our network. Okay, our network, Microsoft network, that hosts the Skype for Business Online.
Okay.
But that segment, actually, if you amplify that, it will go through your Wi-Fi or Ethernet connection. Okay, it will need to travel inside the customer's network, and that could mean that you go across MPLS WAN and get to the point where your company's internet egress point is, and then it gets to our our Microsoft network. And inside the Microsoft network, we also have a few segments of the network. For example, you get the media first gets to our relay server first.
Okay.
And then get to our conferencing server. And then on the way out, you hit another relay, may or may not hit another relay.
So this is, I think, maybe a little bit of a terminology difference between what I think where customers are familiar with and the terminology that our media team uses. So you were just using the term relay,
right.
and on the slide we saw the term edge. Now edge is actually a bunch of different services, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
and one of those services is the relay.
Yeah, that's a interesting thing. I'm living this day in and day out. I didn't realize that. It's edge means quite a few things actually. We talk about edge being literally the edge of our network.
Okay.
There's no server involved.
Right.
And then there's a edge server role that Skype for Business have, which runs a few different things, basically acting as a proxy for example, the media traffic, the signaling traffic.
Right.
So in this case, that edge I talk about, that relay I talk about runs inside this edge role.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. And there's different processes there. One to handle the process for managing signaling, and another to handle the process for managing media. Essentially. Okay. Correct. Got it. All right. Okay. So back to the diagram. Cool.
All right. So so basically, on the outgoing side, once the audio packet needs to exit the Microsoft network, and it basically think about a reverse route. You need to go over the whatever the connection you have to our network, and then get into the customer's network. And in the customer's network, it basically needs to go back, may go over the WAN and then the LAN, and then go through Wi-Fi, and finally arrive to the user two's devices.
And so there's a really interesting implication here in that there are two different edge components or two different edge resources that you're showing here. One that's taking in traffic from the client one, and the other that is delivering traffic to client two. The implication is that these are two separate nodes or two separate sets of resources. How many are used in Office 365 kind of generally? Like what's the is it just these two, or are there?
Oh, you're asking for how many of the servers like this we have in the deployment? Lots. Probably in I don't remember the exact number, but we have.
I wasn't trying to catch you on the exact number. I'm sorry.
No, but roughly, I think in hundreds. We have data centers around the world, and in each of the data center, we make sure that we have enough capacity, and not just for our edge servers, but also all the other server rows, we have enough capacity to serve our customers there.
So when somebody is connecting to our edge network, they're then connecting to not a single one, they're connecting to a local one, and then that transports the traffic into Office 365.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So the idea is that you've got this ability to have multiple different types of connection points to Office 365 depending upon where you are in the world. And if you're having a meeting and you've got some folks that are connecting from Europe and some folks are connecting from the US, they may all be connecting to different edges and then all centralized, and then ultimately that traffic gets centralized in the meeting server.
Correct.
Okay. Cool. And so given that architecture, then the kind of next step is around how do customers make sure that they've got good connectivity into that network, or how can they test their connectivity into that network, right?
Right. So one thing that we want our customers to think about is that as a service provider, we obviously will make sure and do everything we can to make sure that Microsoft network is good, we clean. And then customers need to think about their connectivity to our network, and specifically their connectivity to, sorry to use the term again,
to the edge.
To the edge.
Yeah, all right.
And in this case, edge as our network edge, not the edge server role.
Got it. Okay. And actually, that's one of the really interesting things I learned about in the paper was that there's a specific virtual IP that we use to define the media relay or the edge that anybody can use, and it'll go to the local resource, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. So what we do is basically we have relays pretty much around the world, and in a certain region we have multiple locations that have both the network edge and our edge servers. But we put all those edge servers in one VIP, and we use the Anycast technology to basically resolve the traffic to the closest relay to the user. So that is something that our customers can use to do their testing, testing their connection to our network.
Got it. Okay. And so when we're doing that kind of testing, we've got a table up here. Let me put that up. So we're doing that testing. There are a few different things that customers want to look at, and so folks should be able to see the table now. Kind of help us kind of go through. I mean, clearly we've got latency in here, so that's the end-to-end delay we were talking about. We got packet loss and jitter. So kind of help us understand what these are.
Right. And one clarification I want to have, because we will have another table coming up. This is take latency, for example. We're talking about the latency criteria from literally the user's machine to the edge of our network. So when you're doing planning for deployment or changing your deployment, think about the sites that you have around the world, and think about measuring against this table from as many sites as you can.
Got it. Okay.
So that approximates the from the client to our network.
Okay. Okay. And so we have latency in here from the client to the network. So that could be impacted. Like even if I'm just on wireless versus wired, right? Like that can have an impact on latency too,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah. I mean, because there's just more steps in the wireless front. Okay.
Yeah.
And then so if we go to the next one, so these are the metrics for client to edge, and then here is, got it, network edge to network edge.
So this is basically where you should look at your internet egress point. From there, the connection, the quality of the connection from there to our network.
Got it. Okay.
So this table would basically remove, if you compare it to the previous table, would remove this kind of things like Wi-Fi, some network problems that you have in a specific building, or even your internal MPLS WAN. Purely looking at from one side of the network to another edge of the network, basically a connection between the two networks.
Got it. So trying to get as close as possible to the customer's network edge, testing from there, and having that testing go into Office 365.
Right.
Okay. So let's say some customers are they've got this document here. They can kind of see what our recommendations are. We've talked about these here. Mm-hmm. Clearly, customers could do this themselves. You know, in addition, of course, we have partners that do these types of network assessments, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is key. So if this is something you're hearing this, you're going, oh, I have no idea what to do. There are lots and lots of partners that do network assessments, specifically using this guidance and using this methodology to understand what quality your current network is, and then what are some steps you can do to improve it if that needs to happen, right?
Yes. Okay.
So in general, like, what are some things that customers can do should they find that their network doesn't meet some of these requirements?
Our customers obviously needs to take a look at their internal network, how their users connectivity look like. For Wi-Fi, they should take a look at how much Wi-Fi the latency, the jitter, and packet loss introduces.
Sure.
Making that good. They can take a look at whether they have enough capacity in their network, because if your network is congested, even though your network is very fast, if it's congested, that also again introduces latency, jitter, and packet loss.
And you know, folks may not. This is funny. I run into this in the EBC in our executive briefing center with customers a lot, where they're thinking about going forward with Skype for Business, or now they're going to switch on and start doing more media stuff with us. And so I'll ask the question, well, when's the last time you refreshed your wireless? Oh, we're still running the 802.11b, the early versions of wireless, and yeah, it's primarily sized for email traffic. And it's easy to describe, well, what happens when you get, 10 people into a room and they all have their workstation and they're all joined into a Skype for Business meeting, and some of them are presenting video over that Skype for Business meeting.
Right.
That's going to crush the wireless. Like, it's just not designed for it.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of learnings for our own Microsoft deployment, right? We spend a lot of time debugging the audio quality, and more than often we find, yeah, it's a particular access point, Wi-Fi access point. So we work with our IT to make sure those are upgraded or even replaced.
I think I've told this story before. There was one building that we were refurbishing, and it was one of those cases where the IT organization was kind of gave some requirements. The building people gave some requirements. Ultimately, the contractor installed the access points between the metal ductwork.
Yeah.
It's in a Faraday cage, right? There's just no hope for that RF to go anywhere, right? It's just, you're done. It's like, yes, when you look at that and you go like, perhaps that's why you're not getting good quality.
Right.
Yeah, again, kind of going back to kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier around the signal flow and around and thinking about this end to end. You know, it really does start with devices, but all of those intermediary steps.
Jamie, sorry to stop you,
No, please.
interrupt you. There's one important thing I think we should quickly talk about.
Yeah.
Since we just talked about network capacity and the congested network, right? I think you know, there are two ways out of that situation if you do have a congested network.
Mm-hmm.
One way obviously is you size up your network in different places, right? So that you do not have congestion anymore. But more than often, and sometimes more realistic, is that you implement quality of service.
Right.
While you're sort of improving your network,
mm-hmm.
so that you prioritize the audio traffic out of compared to say the file transfer kind of traffic.
Got it.
So that helps a lot when we talk about real-time audio and video quality.
And this is a fantastic segue, right? Because so while customers can increase their bandwidth, they can also use quality of service, and we can actually support quality of service all the way into Office 365 using ExpressRoute. And we've talked about ExpressRoute in the show and in previous episodes. And what we found with talking with customers is that they haven't had they felt like we haven't been super clear on when folks should use ExpressRoute versus when they shouldn't, or kind of how to think through that decision.
Sure. I think thinking about, in general, the connectivity from the customer's network to our network, I would recommend our customers and our partners also to go back to those two tables that we just mentioned. Basically, what are they looking at? What are the requirements for a good connectivity to us? And go from an assessment of how your network is performing compared to those targets. And if for some sites or all sites that you're not quite meeting the target, I think a few things that you can do in terms of arriving at a decision. One, you should work with your network engineers internally, look at your own network, obviously.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
You should work with whoever that's providing the network services for you, for your MPLS WAN, for your internet connectivity, to see what other options are out there. And obviously, you should consider ExpressRoute as one of the options. What ExpressRoute give you is the sort of if you plan right, obviously, is sort of a dedicated network bandwidth,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so that you have less chance of having a file transfer impacting the real-time audio video. It will also help you when you do deploy the quality of service, and ExpressRoute will carry that deep-serve marking of the quad service all the way to our network. And in our network, we will also sort of carry that over all the way to our server.
So that we can honor that as well. So right. Essentially, ExpressRoute says when I tag my media packets on my local network can then honor that and say, hey, right. This packet means more than your Netflix packet. So right. Therefore, I'm going to put it into a lower latency queue, and then when it goes out of the customer's environment and in through a partner and into us, then we're also doing that same. We're also honoring that same way.
Right.
Right.
So basically, to summarize, I think the key thing is every customer is different. Every network service provider is different. You choose the best option that you can meet those network performance targets.
That's right. Yeah.
And ExpressRoute is one of the options. It's not a mandate. It's one of the options.
Exactly. And there were some other questions that folks had asked about the call quality SLA, and do I need to have ExpressRoute for that? And the answer there is no. Like we believe call quality is a right for everybody, not just for the folks that are using ExpressRoute. ExpressRoute's a tool to get to the types of performance metrics we were talking about.
Exactly, and we invest so heavily in Skype to make sure that our software, our media stack, can deal with various network situations. Obviously, we can use some help if customers have good connections to us, but we are trying to make sure that customers have good quality in whatever the connection that they have.
Right. So it's a little bit more of a case where if customers don't have an ability to right size the network, or they know that it's going to be congested in certain cases, and ExpressRoute may be the optimal kind of cost benefit sort of scenario. Okay, all right, that makes sense. So we put together a few different kind of cases here for ExpressRoute with Office 365. What I'll do is I'll take this deck and I'll put it up on our Yammer. And of course, if folks have questions, I'm happy to take those from the Yammer. But as we're kind of getting close to time, let's just talk through this example, just so folks kind of understand like what some of the implications are should they choose to kind of go down the ExpressRoute path.
Okay, so let me quickly talk about a simple rule of thumb based on our study on sort of the network connectivity across the world, the quality of those. The rule of thumb is that if you have sites across different continents, and you have decided that you want to deploy ExpressRoute, you want to consider at least one ExpressRoute connection per continent. Okay? Making sure that the media traffic gets to our network as fast as possible. So that's one of the rule of thumb. And then the second thing to look at is that once you decided you have at least one connection, you need to again go back to the principles that we just talked about, whether this help you meet the network performance targets. So in this example, in the Europe region, when this particular customer did the network assessment, they determined, hey, a single connection to our network, and in this case, from basically interconnecting in London, that would make sure that from all their Europe's offices, they would have good quality. That's good enough. Okay. However, on the North America side, they tried to do the same thing. They set up a connection in New York, and then they realized that hey, there's an office that's very far away, and that's an important office for them. That's the Honolulu office. Just think about the distance from Honolulu to New York. And
I want to work in that really important office.
Yeah,
that's great.
So in that case, in the West Coast offices, especially in the Hawaii Island, their connectivity to our network is not that great when they egress out through carry the traffic all the way to New York and then enter our network.
Yeah.
So they decided to put up another connection in the San Francisco, Silicon Valley kind of area.
Perfect. That makes sense. Okay. Right. Yeah. Excellent. So I like that. I like that rule of thumb. Is it too arrogant for us to say you should have if you're going to do ExpressRoute, you should have an ExpressRoute connection per continent because our network is always going to be better than your WAN? Like, is that too arrogant of an implication to make, right?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say it that way. But we are offering a very serious service that our customers are depending on. It is our commitment so that we have our own network infrastructure in the best possible shape. So we invest a lot. We are working with our Azure networking team. We invest a lot to making sure that's the case from all over the world.
And I don't think that this could be overstated. I've had the opportunity to be in meetings with the media team and other folks from our engineering where we're looking at graphs of P90 latencies and its, you know, source and destinations all around the world, and looking at this graph and drilling in on, you know, there's one cell there where we go, wow, why is the traffic between, you know, this site and this site, why is that, you know, 50 milliseconds greater? Like, what's going on there? And it literally is, you know, we're digging into, you know, how our network is performing at a very fundamental layer, not just generally, but specifically for media. Like the quality that we're looking at here isn't necessarily around trip time. Like, we're actually doing media studies across all these links too. Yeah.
We spend a lot of time.
Well, Hal, thank you so much for joining me on this and having this conversation, and dig the paper. Want everybody to make sure that they go out and get this, because if you're doing Skype for Business and you're connecting up to Office 365, this is key. It will be available later on today. Give it a couple hours to propagate around the world for everybody. Again, it's aka.ms/SfB network. So hey, thanks again for coming out. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you again, everybody. You can see us again in 2 weeks at aka.ms/SfBcast. Have a great weekend. Thanks for coming out.
Bye, guys.